Director's Reflections for March 5th of 2023, with the killer of Santo Domingo in his hours of flight. He was a confessed murderer throughout, and he seemed to take pride in it. As a military hitman, he was part of a dirty task team, and his record recorded at least 38 murders of political enemies of the government. Due to unforeseen events, I had to be the journalist to whom he revealed the name of the popular opposition leader whom he had been ordered to kill. I met him 2 hours after having deserted as an Air Force officer because he refused to fulfill the sinister task of executing the main opponent of the regime, José Francisco Peña Gómez, at the end of 1968. He was impatient in front of me because he had a feeling that the Secret Service will soon be after him. He was carrying 2 fragmentation grenades and a .45 caliber pistol ready to repel arrest. He asked me to take him in the Diario vehicle in the presence of Dr. Peña Gómez, or failing that, one of the senior leaders of the Dominican Revolutionary Party, to reveal the macabre plan. Without considering the risk that I was exposing myself to and committing to the newspaper, I walked around a few times to get to the residences of Doctors Milagros Ortiz Bosch and Jotin Curi, who were neighbors, to whom I told them what the deserter who was crouching in the vehicle I wanted to make a report. Milagros Ortiz Bosch and Jotin Curi, who were neighbors, to whom I told them what the deserter who was crouching in the vehicle I wanted to report. They contacted Mrs. Zaida Ginebra de Lobaton, wife of Máximo Lobaton Pitaluga, both of whom are highly trusted by Peña Gómez, and they authorized me to take him to the residence. I remember that upon arrival, Mrs. Zaida demanded with her proverbial energy and courage that she hand over a pistol and grenades, her proverbial energy and courage, that he hand over the pistol and grenade, or else he would not be allowed to enter. It was a feverish night. 2 ambassadors arrived at the residence, among them the one from Chile, Peña Gómez himself, a few members of the party's executive committee, and the journalist Radamés Gómez Pepín, editor-in-chief of El Nacional de Ahora, subjecting the deserter to a long interrogation all tuned down. His testimony was recorded, and that same night, the decision was made to organize his asylum in the Mexican embassy in the early hours of the following day, which occurred without major inconvenience. The government granted him asylum, and he finally traveled to France, where he lived for several years. Upon returning to the country, a long time later, he continued his business as a member of Army intelligence until June of 2004, when he was shot to death on an avenue in Santiago. Almost 40 years after the risky adventure in which I found myself involved in the legitimate desire to give a journalistic blow, it was that I came to know that the armed man I mobilized at that time was one of the darkest of the time, Carlos Evers Fournier, the murderer of Santo Domingo. For Diario, voiceover and translations by Indira Rodriguez.